Hello, friends. Welcome. I am Ananda Rose. Thank you for joining me. And thank you to all of you that will subscribe in the future. And thank you for all of you that have remained faithful to the channel whilst I have been busy with family life and so many other things happening. And yet you've remained loyal. And I thank you for that. Really appreciate your love and generosity toward me and the channel and everybody that works on the channel. So, friends, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're navigating well at this time. Today, I felt the urge to come and sit down and do a recording. And actually, I felt this urge a few times in the last few weeks and just haven't got down to sit and do it because it just, the energy just didn't feel right to go and sit down and do that and go against the grain. And so today it feels like it's the new beginning. There's something new that's happened. Now, I've been really busy with family, and I've finally that's come to a close. Looking after family has come to a close, and I am, they've moved on to whatever's next for them, and I am here, and I can then have my space, is what I've been missing. Okay. I love my family. They know this. I would say that to them as well. I've been looking forward to having my space. And so here I am having my space and feeling like, okay, I can start doing my conversations on YouTube. Now, I have done a few videos that I did interviews on in the last month. And that was the sign that things are starting to come back to normal. I have to say though, even with all the family commitments and everything else that was happening, the energies have been something else, right? I also felt like the shifting of timelines just made me feel sometimes like I needed to be where I was, obviously for physical reasons, for family life reasons, for commitment to family, for loving our families, when they need something, we do that, and that takes precedence over other things. Yes, it does, right? And so there was that aspect, but through that, underlying that I was meant to be out of social media action, maybe I should say. One of the things I did in this time was I reactivated my Facebook page. Friends, I have to say, I felt rather icky doing that because it just when I reactivated it, it felt like, oh, I was suddenly looking at things I haven't been looking at for a long time. The guidance for reactivating Facebook was to have another platform to market the work that I do, as in the 343 series or any of the full moon sessions that I tried to have. So I've had quite a volatile 10 months that has now culminated and I've gone through it and I went through whatever that phase was that I had to, and here I am, and I'm feeling like August starts a new phase. I don't know if you're feeling like that. I'm feeling like that, and that I'm hoping that I'm correct about it. Today, talking today is just about talking. I felt like I didn't want to bring in any energy, focusing on anything, bringing any light language or light codes. Because in the last 10 months, or in November last year, I had some stuff going on in my world. I have thought about it a lot in the last 6 weeks as to whether I actually talk about this, and I'm getting the green light from my guidance. I had some stuff happen where I said some things to people, and whilst I was exactly on point, and I had to ask the questions I asked, and I had to say the things I said, um, it was definitely all of those things that were the correct things to say. I had said it in a tone that was really not good. And when I reflected on that, I really had to, I felt that I had to step back and I had to really look and check my behavior. However, just when I thought I needed to do that, I went into another period of Mars being in retrograde in Leo. And I suddenly had all of that effects of Mars in retrograde because Mars is my avatar. I'm Aries, and I suddenly had all of that kicked in, and then it took me back to what happens in my life when Mars is in retrograde, and when Mars is in retrograde, and then I think for a while it was out of bounds, and when Mars goes into out of bounds, things in my astrology almost come to a grinding halt when it comes to my financial abundance and all of those things. So if I thought that financial abundance was tougher prior to November last year, I thought it was sort of changing after the eclipse of April. It was and it did, and then suddenly it took the dip again. And here I was back into this, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do? And so I went into this phase of now trying to tuning in and getting guidance for what we do to change that and fix that. And I got the guidance and I tried to do it with the 343 series and it worked. And then we went to another phase of astrology and it failed and it dropped and it just came to a grounding halt. And then before I knew it, there it was. I was in April and I was being needed by family to take care of them. And so here you find me explaining to you because I feel like you have been loyal to me. All of you that subscribe to my channel have been loyal to me. All of you that support my work, all of you that like, those of you that watch, you support me, you support my work. Because of the stuff that happened in November, I really questioned myself about whether I should be doing energy healing, energy work. I am an interviewer. I am a podcaster. I do radio and I love radio. And my guides had asked me to do YouTube. I would never have done it if I didn't feel strongly, intuitively that I needed to do it. And so I started this journey in 2023, the 22nd of February, 2023. And 2023 was a year of a lot of learning, a lot of highs, lows, confusion, all of those things. And then I got to 2024 and I was confident, okay, that we carry on. And then at the end of 2023, I was actually starting to do energy healing myself on my channel. And when I went through that last year and I started to come out with my energy healing. But when stuff happened in November last year, I really came to a grounding halt or a grinding halt as to what I do in terms of energy. And I have to say that the answers are not all there yet. The answers will come. And it's about, again, one more time for me, if you know anything about me, is I have to take the steps forward to find out what the universe is bringing forth for me. So that's my background of the last 10 months. And as we come here. Now, I'm looking at my notes to make sure that I've said everything so far. The channel has been quiet. I have been questioning whether I even do my energy work, if I am to do energy work, whether we do it on YouTube. And I have to say the jury is still out on it. I think that perhaps we need to do YouTube, but we also need to look at other platforms. I'm not so sure that the messages that I have, or let me put it this way, I am unsure about whether my messaging is something that resonates with what the algorithms look for in YouTube. So as a result, we don't get a lot of people subscribing, we don't get a lot of views, and we don't get a lot of likes, and we don't get a lot of comments. And so, when you put all your time into something, which I have done for these last 2.5 years, when you put yeah, 2.5, going to be 3 years soon. When you put all of your energy into it and you trust it and you know that this is your work that you're doing and you're holding space for the collective and then you have all this time you've given it and then it's not materializing into anything. You stop and check yourself about, hey, I give this all my time. What am I getting in return? And so I feel like for me, there might come a time where, I don't know what the guides are doing when it comes to this. I don't have the no for YouTube. I I don't have a yes for anybody else. It's been a really stressful time as a light worker, star seed person that I am in terms of finances. You would have heard me say this before, but I'm really saying it. I'm saying it in the sense that I have gone through some stuff now that where, and you know this if you're going through this, where before you had to budget and you had to really budget. Now I have to budget the budget and then budget that budget too to carry on. And I question then, why am I creating such a reality? And then I also hear all the time, it's me that creates this reality. It's me that's manifesting this. And I still have to say, I feel terrible that I can manifest a life that is giving me lemons that are bad tasting. Because you have lemons that can be very good tasting, right? Yeah. And so there we are. I probably said this before. I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record, but I just thought coming back, I just needed to do this recap and tell you what is happening. In the last 3, 4 months that I've been really looking after my family and friends, there's been a lot of stuff going on with friends. There's a lot of stuff where, whilst I might not have been doing energy healing here, but I've been doing energy healing with people personally. I've been looking after people that I love, that are not family, that I'm acquainted with. All of that stuff. I have not been far away from my intuitive self. I have had to be, the fact that I have survived the last 3 or 4 months is because I've been with my intuitive self. And so, I hope whatever's going on in your world, friends, if you've been experiencing things like that, that you're finding the ways to give yourself the comfort you need because it is important. I feel like I have been pulverized and it feels like a has run over me because I feel flattened. And I say that with the greatest of respect for any one of you that's going through trialing times at the moment. But I also feel like August is changing our lives. Finally, since maybe the 30th of June, I felt the shift to there is hope. There is something going on in the ethers, and the ethers are saying it's coming, whatever is coming. I dare to believe this time because I have felt it so many times, but not to the degree of true, pure surety and bliss. And so therefore, I encourage you to keep going on your journey. Whatever's happened to us is not by chance. It's not what was not meant to happen. It's all relative and relevant. I always say that. I've always said it on this channel, and I'm saying it again. In the meantime, I've done a lot of work on radio. I've been bringing in a lot of energy through the radio frequencies. And so I've tried to cut the files so that I can share some of it here on YouTube. And I probably, once I've worked it out, I'll do that because I think that a lot of my work had to be at radio. I went to radio almost every week, even though I had family. I made sure that I did that and I brought in light language and energetic messages through that for the people that listen to radio. So there you go. Right. So that's my little update. What's happening currently for me? I was listening to Lee Harris's August monthly update on the weekend, and he was talking about August, and some of the things he was talking about um, made me realize like I'd already started experiencing that. So, because, I guess the August update is not cut in stone as it has to be effective from the 1st of August, right? I was listening to him on the 2nd of August. This thing of reconnecting with people, with family, with soul family, people being on your mind, and then you know that you have to contact them that you haven't spoken to for 2 years. There's like 2 or 3 people I haven't spoken to for 2 years now. We didn't have a falling out. Our lives just, our timelines just went in another direction. And so we were doing busy with our lives. And suddenly there we were last week, reconnecting and making time, setting up time appointments to catch up this week. And that's what we did. So that's one of the things that Lee Harris was talking about. We will reconnect with soul family. There's a lot more he's talking about, friends. I encourage you to listen to it. It might give you some direction for your life. It might give you some hope. I always listen to Lee Harris's monthly updates because they give me an idea of, he always says, we take the pulse on what is happening energetically or something is how he starts it. One of his promos or something that he does. And I certainly want to take the pulse on what is happening energetically. I have stopped listening to a lot of my teachers, my esoteric teachers. And the reason for it is, for one, I just can't, I don't have, my guidance is not to do it. And so I don't do it. There's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't mean if you're feeling like that, it doesn't mean you are like going to the other side. You're not. You're not going dark. You're not whatever. Your intuition is saying you don't need that anymore. You've got all you came to get from that person or that teacher, and now it's time to move to whatever's next for you. And so I haven't been listening to many people that I've supported through the years by, with getting their oracle cards, listening to them, referring them to you. But I do listen to Lee. And that was what my point was about that, because I do want to take the pulse on what is happening energetically. Yeah, right. A specific thing I wanted to talk about today. I met a man yesterday. Well, I actually met this man um, probably 3 weeks ago. And how I met him was I have been doing my jams and preserves. So if you've watched my channel for a long time, you know I do jams and preserves. I give them away as gifts. It's a hobby and I absolutely love it. And so in the last 2 months, or no, not the last 2 months, say May and June, I went to a market, a craft market, to market my goods, and I thought that was pretty funky. And last month I didn't go because the stuff with the family was happening, and I couldn't go, and that day just didn't align, and I didn't go. But I'm hoping that maybe this month I'll go because I need to market what I do. But anyway, coming back to the man. So part of my process is I collect fruit that is grown locally and then I make jams and preserves with it. I go to people and I say, hey, you've got all this fruit, it's falling to the ground. Can I have some of it? I won't raid your tree, and leave it with nothing. But I'll make some of it and I'll exchange it for the finished product. Or if you want money for it, then I can pay some money for it. Most of the time we exchange for finished product. And so I met this man 3 weeks ago, and I'm not going to say his name because I don't have his permission to say his name, right? And so I stopped at this house as I was walking the dog, and I noticed that they have a lot of limes, and I am making lime pickle. Now, my lime pickle is quite remarkable. I'll rave on about it because I'll tell you why. My lime pickle is a South African Indian recipe. Right? If you don't know it, I am South African born. And it's a South African Indian because I'm South African Indian. All right. My ancestors went to South Africa when India was a British colony, and so was South Africa, and they went in the 1800s, and they didn't leave like some of the others. Anyway, I have managed to make the lime pickle like this company called Pakco. Pakco makes all these pickles, these Indian pickles, and they are in a place called Verulam in Durban, South Africa, or Natal, South Africa. Pakco has stopped making their lime pickles, and I make Pakco's lime pickles. I'm just going to say that. Maybe my lime pickles rival it. Anyway, so I saw these limes on the man's tree, and I thought I need to make more lime pickles because people really love that. That is my selling. That is my niche. Okay. So I went over and I said hello to them, to the man who'd answer the door. And he said, of course, please help yourself. And we can do this every time. Every time there are limes, please feel free to come and get them. And I said, thank you. I will come back with some finished product. And he said, no, no, don't worry about it. And I said, no, that's what I do. I'm going to do that. And so yesterday I took some finished product, not of the Pakco lime pickles, because that's still in its process of getting ready so that I can put them in jars and get them ready for selling, but also, and for sharing. But also I took other things that I've made because I have a cupboard full of things I've made in the last 2, 3 years because it's preserving, so it lasts for a long time. And when I went there, he was talking to me and he said, "Oh." As soon as he answered the door, he said, "Oh, I knew, I must have known you're coming today because I had you on my mind a lot." And I said, "Okay, all right." And he said, "I don't know why, but I thought about you a lot today." And I said, "That's okay because this is the time and season for that to happen. Astrologically, that's happening." And so there was that man. And I'll come back to his story in a minute. And then I spoke to yesterday my friend Kat. Kat had contacted me on the weekend and she said, "Oh, Rose, do you have time to have a catch up?" She'd had me on her mind for the last week and she had time and she caught up with me. Because very much with the way the current energy is. Let's go back to the man. He started to tell me his story, and I realized he was telling me my story. He became Christian when he was about 39 years old. And 4 years ago, he decided to leave the church because he felt the rules at the church were what his intuition was not resonating with or wasn't confining to. That's the long and short of that. And so he was speaking to me, and then, because I left the church in 2008, 2007, 2008, because of that. When I left the church, my intuition guided me out of the church. I believed in the Holy Spirit, which is our intuition. Okay, that's what Christians call it, the Holy Spirit. It's God's Spirit that lives within you. Okay. And layman's terms, by the way. And and so I started to feel like, you know, wow, this man's telling me his story, but I started to remember my journey. When I was called out of the church, I stayed longer. I stayed for 6 months because I was waiting to go to the next church that I believe God was calling me to. And I didn't get an answer. 6 months went by and I didn't get an answer. And then I got to like May of 2008 and I was like, stuff was happening. I was preparing for Mother's Day. I headed up the ladies group. I was preparing for Mother's Day and I'd asked the minister, could the ladies in the church do a message? Could they be the ones to take the Sunday morning service? And he wouldn't give me an answer. And but what he was doing was he was talking to my friend who was part of, although I was heading up the ladies group, he wasn't talking to me. I asked the question. He wasn't talking to me. He was talking to her. And he was telling me things through her about why the ladies couldn't do this and all of that. And I was like, okay. So then I was tuning in again and I asked, why is this happening, God? And I heard this audible voice say, when you are in the wrong place, these things will happen. And that is how I thought, right, I'm going to have to leave. I'm going to have to resign. So I did everything properly, like gave my written resignation, all of that stuff. And that is a whole nother story for another time. However, I tried to go to other churches and tried to be part of other churches, and it kept falling down. And then I was saying to the Holy Spirit again, what is this? Why is this happening? And I heard, but why are you going to places we have not asked you to go to? And I thought, so what do I do? And I heard the word nothing. And so we set it out and we stopped going to any church. In this time, I started to hear things about the Pleiadians. I started to hear things about Abraham Hicks. I started to hear things about Dr. Joe Dispenza. I had a neighbor who sat outside and did his smoking outside my garage, and would, I would go out to close the garage or to do something with the car, and he'd be sitting there and he'd start to talk to me. And Andrew would start telling me stuff about like Joe Dispenza or whatever. Initially, I thought, I wish this guy would shut up because I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go with the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit, I'm resistant. I'm not going to do that because I don't think that's where I'm supposed to go. It was frightening me, right? But over time, I started to feel my intuition saying, listen to some of those things. And so I did. And this is how you find me here now, in the church of the planet. Okay. When I spoke to the gentleman yesterday, he was saying to me, people need to get that Jesus is the only way to God. And I said, I'm sorry. If this was like 2008, I would agree with you. But I have done my journey since then. I have to tell you that Jesus is one of the ways. And so I told him some of my learnings, and I told him about learning that Jesus actually had a guru in India. Jesus was in India. Learning that Jesus was in Glastonbury. And learning over time that Jesus sits on the Intergalactic Council. And learning that Mary Magdalene, or Maria Magdalena, some people might call her that, she had her own gospel, learning that maybe I needed to look closer at the picture, the Last Supper. Yeah? That was painted. Who was it? Da Vinci painted the Last Supper. I was saying this to this man. And so he was very calm and very open and ready to listen. And I also told him about Lars Moore and his Gate of Light chant. And I sent him the link to it later on. Friends, why are we talking about this? Why am I telling you about this today? I'm telling you about this because later on in the evening, I connected with a friend, and maybe I'll say she's family because she's so family, and because I used to be so close to her in the days that we were in the same timeline, and she was telling me some stuff about I'm starting to be scared because she is in church, and she said I'm starting to be scared because I listen to people preaching or speaking, and I can tell there's a lot of BS in it. and and she said I'm like the dead are speaking to me in my dreams, and I was like, okay, reminded of my journey when I was called out of the church, and how these things were happening to me. And initially I'm freaking out. What are my Christian friends going to say? What is God going to say? I'm disloyal, all of those things. However, I said to my friend, you are awakening. Christianity has served the purpose it needed to serve in your life. As I'd said to the gentleman earlier, we needed it to come to where we are. Okay, I'm a Bible college student, by the way. I've read the Bible a few times, back to front. Okay, so I have a lot of knowledge of what is in there, and yeah. I'm not speaking from a perspective of ignorance about what's in it and what I think is the real message and what isn't from it. Okay, and so I say to my friend, it's time for you to go within, do your meditation, and start journaling. It's time for you to tune in. And when you're doing your meditation, ask the Holy Spirit, because Christians call it the Holy Spirit, where to from now? And yesterday was my day of a lot of learning. The reason I did this video today is so to bring this message out, because I think right now there's a lot of awakening happening in that part of the collective, where people are saying, yes, I follow the rules and it's time for, and I'm no longer resonating with it. They are fearful because what are the family going to say? What is the friend going to say? What is the minister going to say? What is God going to say? And dare they take such a move? Dare it actually happen? What would happen to them? Are they going to go to hell? No, no one's going to hell. I'm going to tell you that. What the journey is about is this. We have come here, those of us who are going through a journey like this, and probably all of us, we have come here. We will find this journey to ourselves, however which way it's meant to happen. My teacher, my greatest teacher, has been my intuition, the Holy Spirit, even when I was a Christian. When I truly understood and felt what the Holy Spirit is, I decided that that is what I was always going to tune into, the Spirit that of God that lives within me. Right? I didn't speak much to Yeshua in my latter years as a Christian because I felt that he had given me what I needed. I also want to say to you, if you love Jesus or Yeshua, you're never going to unlove him. Don't be afraid. You're never going to unlove him. So if you're feeling called to something beyond all of that which you have been taught in your life, be it Christianity, be it whatever religion you follow, and you feel like, okay, it served me, I feel it's not teaching me anymore, I feel I've learned everything and it's time to go through the metamorphosis of the next step and the next transition, don't be afraid. I need to say that. I've done it. I've taken the journey. That was our agreement. The Holy Spirit was going to become the teacher. I was I always trust, and it also was a good lesson for me because often I've said I'm not hearing the voice of my intuition. It's because I stopped hearing it like I used to hear it when I was a Christian. It was because I went through the dark night of the soul. It was because I was taking that hero's journey where it felt like my higher self had abandoned me. Okay, and that was part of my journey. But I was reminded about how much I love my intuition, how much my intuition is so much a part of me, how much my intuition is everything, and how it's been my teacher, and how I can never falter. I can never fail. It's the thing that makes me brave. It's the thing that makes me have assurance that I'm on the journey I'm supposed to be. Whether I do energy work, whether I I one day slip up and have a bad tone of voice with anyone, that was my reassurance. But coming back to all of you that might be going through this, trust your intuition. No matter how, whatever you call it, whether you call it the Holy Spirit, whatever it is, if it is your time to metamorphosis and come out of where you are being called to do that. Take the step. You are the hero. You're the hero because I'll tell you why you're the hero in this. Because you are trusting your higher self, the Holy Spirit, your intuition to be the guide now. You are saying, my teacher is me, my higher self, the greater me. That in itself is a courageous step to take. I took it in 2008 and I have never looked back. So if you're pondering, if you're wondering, and if you're scared, I encourage you to be brave. Your intuition is standing in front of you, is standing behind you, is standing beside you. And the part of you, of your intuition that's standing in front of you is saying, here's my hand, take it. Let's take the step. Friends, I hope what I said today makes sense. I hope some of you um, transform from this message because that is always my hope. That anything I put out energetically transforms at least one of you. Your knowledge, your intuition, or it enhances your skills here on the planet. Okay, in this time and space. There's another group of people that have come online with their skills, like very quickly in the last 5 years. That's been happening. If you're one of those people, take a step back and process what that means. Take a step back and think, I need to now find my process that I need to follow every day where I tune in with my intuition so that all these tools I have that I've come online with, that I know what to do with them. Yeah? Because many people who are awakening right now will not be awakening like I did, or somebody who did 20 years ago, or did 30 years ago, or woke up in the 50s or the 60s. Because all of us that had the agreement to wake up earlier than the last 5 years, we've had to take a journey and we've had to do the trial and error journey, okay? But know that we are here. We have gone ahead and started the learning sooner so that when you come online with your tools and you feel like you don't know what's happening and there's the background stuff and you're feeling like you're up in the air, there are those of us that already have taken the journey that can support you grounding. Whatever that means to you, I believe there's a light code in that. You get the light code. Thank you so much, friends. I hope from here on, it is my desire that I will do at least a weekly update. There are interviews coming out this week, and there will be probably more next week, more interviews next week. But I want to connect with you. I'm sorry that I haven't. I just felt like I was a fraud when I had a bad tone about something that was my truth and ticked all the boxes in truth with a few people. And in that time, I think I made a few enemies. You wouldn't think that people who are supposed to be high vibrational will be enemies. A lot of people unsubscribed from my channel because of it. This group of people, they gave me reasons for why they were leaving this sacred feminine circle that we created, and the reasons were not. The reasons were PC according to intuition, intuitive people's PC. Okay. What I have learned is I have to be me. I have to tell my truth. Maybe sometimes the tone is not good, but if the tone is not good, there might be a reason for it. So I have had imposter syndrome for a while. And I just felt I couldn't come here and talk to you because I needed to get my shit together, so to speak of. Pardon my language. I needed to understand it. Thank you so much, friends. So much love to you. And I hope we'll be connecting some more. I hope you'll comment. I hope you'll subscribe. I invite you to. I need to grow and I need to own it that, this time I give, that it's a form of exchange and it needs to mean something. And honestly, if there is no comeback with this, then I'm going to keep questioning, am I on the right trajectory? I've got the message that I am, but I I did need to have the time out to look after my family, but in that time to also take the journey to soul search. Have I finished soul searching? I don't think so. Anyway, so much love to you. Take care of yourselves. And there's a lot of crazy things happening. Be safe, be safe, keep yourself safe. Call in your teams of light to look after you and your loved ones and your friends and your animals and your creatures and your plants. Just stay sweet, stay in the high vibrational space because that's good, okay? And also, I'm going to have to say the esoteric community has changed because, you know, we really have to stop and think, those of us that are here in this esoteric community, what exactly do we put out videos for? What exactly do we do we use clickbait for? And I'm questioning these things with my guides too, because I kind of want to I want to be sovereign and authentic, but I also need to live on the planet. And where is the balance? Okay, so yeah, and I mean, for a long time we've been trying to do what everybody else is doing, and that's part of the process, right? But it's important for us to do what our intuition is saying, right? What is the intuition within you saying you should do? One of the things that comes to mind is that, yeah, you should look after yourself and you should take those steps to make sure that people can find you on YouTube, that you say the right words, that the algorithm hears you. But what happens when you do all of those things and nothing happens? Anyway, friends, thank you. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, evening, morning, night, wherever you are. So much love to you. And I'm so looking forward to this new timeline I'm on. And for all of those of you that join me on it, that continue to stay here, let's see where we go. How wonderful is this going to be? Okay. And the whole aim is to be authentically ourselves, to be sovereign, and to move forward. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Namaste.